Hello and welcome to a new Conscience podcast, and this time the topic is the forthcoming album Phases3, and I'd like to tell you something about the history of the Phases album and of course something about the singles, and some of them you already know. So, about the history. The first version from Phases was not quite released, but it was composed and recorded in 1998 and 1999. And what I'd like to do at this time was to record something and to send it to record labels to get a proper record deal. And so I did 12 tracks, some reworks in it, Access Denied for instance, but we will talk about that later. And I selected the best 6 of them, put them on a CDR and sent them to several record labels. I got quite a bit of response, and finally I got a contract, which I could have signed, but I didn't, because the label suddenly wanted some changes, and that I should get a vocalist and all that stuff. You have to keep in mind, at that time I still recorded everything on a digital audio tape. The recordings of the vocals were made with a cheap microphone, and they were live recordings. There were no possibilities of doing corrections, overdubs, and so on. That all came later. So it had some demo character. The opinion of the labels was it had to be a perfect recording, which they could transfer to CD or record right away without any further studio time. But my goal was to go into the studio and make some decent recordings, and so in the end it didn't happen that way. So the first version of Phases wasn't really released to a wider audience, wasn't on a label, and wasn't distributed at that time. I made some CDRs, some were available on Bandcamp, but I guess the last piece of it was already sold. So I thought some years later, I guess it was about the year 2002, that I should re-record those pieces, because of course I wasn't satisfied with the vocals and some other things too, and I had the original instrumental recordings. At that time I had the possibility of hardware recording, so I could record and edit everything on a PC with a proper software, and could do the doubling of vocals and all that stuff that I couldn't do before. And I had bought myself an AKG microphone, which was far better than my cheap microphone before. So the sound improved obviously, and I did re-recordings of every track, but I was still very new to that digital domain, doing everything in hard disk recording, and that was it. And we a friend of mine did a cover for that, and I did some CDs, and they were out there for a while, and I forgot about that. Then we had the pandemic a few years ago, and I found the instrumental tapes of the album Hardware, which I re-recorded some years ago, and also the tapes of Phases again. And I asked myself, should I do the same again and do Phases 3? And I hesitated a bit, and I decided to start with Hardware, which was really improved in the new version. And it was kind of nagging on me, and I just listened to the old versions in Phases 2, which I've done in 2002, and I wasn't quite pleased, and I asked myself, are these really the final versions of these tracks? And the answer was obviously no. So I decided to re-record them again with all the knowledge and the equipment that I have now, and I came out the results are far better than Phases or Phases 2. So this would be hopefully the final version of this album. But I still needed something for the singles, and like you might know, I did some re-recordings where I took the original MIDI files with my Atari computer and tried to find every sound I used back then in the 90s, and recreated and re-recorded everything from scratch. And that was an option too. And when I started the Atari projects, of course I came to the discs where the songs of Phases were on, and I tried to load them, but the computer told me that the disc was defective. So I thought, well, could happen. I still have a backup disc somewhere. I found that backup disc, and it was the same result. The backup disc was also defective. Then I thought, okay, maybe the whole disk drive is defective, but every other disc, even the very first one I used for Conscience in 1991, was still readable, was intact. And so I had to admit there are no MIDI recordings, no MIDI files of everything I did on the Phases album, with one exception, because I did some re-recordings, and one of the re-recordings back in that time was the title Access Denied. I did the first version in 1994, and that disc was okay, so I could use this file as a basis to rework that track, and that became the first single of the album Phases 3. With the second single, it was quite different, and it had to be on the screen, which was always a fan favorite and a favorite of mine. But as with most of the songs on Phases, far too long to be a single, and I had to recreate them from scratch, so I had to do everything by ear, listen deeply into the instrumental, and try to recreate everything. I found some of the old sounds, but not every sound. And I noticed that I used 4 different kinds of snare drums and 3 different kinds of hi-hats and lots of stuff I wasn't aware of. And it was quite complicated, but and took time. But I finally managed to bring everything together and to recreate on the screen. So this became the second single, and there's some kind of surprise for a third single or maybe EP, but we will see. So thank you for listening. And by the way, the music you can hear in the background is from my side project, Science O.C.N. So that's about it.